Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rita from Microsoft SONiC, and Ravi from Intel. We're going to talk about this auto-generated test framework to improve SAI interoperability. I'll start by talking about some of the challenges and motivation, and then the goal of this initiative. And then Ravi will continue to talk more on today's state and more on the technical details as well. So more on the motivation side. So as we know, SAI is a vendor agnostic interface, right, which can provide unified interface to network applications to read or write into switch ASICs or actually other hardware processing units as well. So it's pretty good. However, today there is a lack of a common test framework, or even though when there is a test framework, I think it's a little bit limited. So because of the lacking of the test framework, so the test coverage of different SAI implementations, it's not that obvious, right? And also, the SAI APIs, not all the APIs have example usages. So it's quite common that different SAI implementations have variations. So also, I think the currently whatever in the SAI community, the test framework is not that easy to whenever new objects or new APIs are added, it's not that easy to have test cases to it. So as a result, I think today the SAI implementation quality could vary. Yeah, so we definitely would like to solve this challenge to improve it. So the goal of this initiative, we're very happy that Intel has brought up this initiative to revamp the test framework in SAI. So there are two major goals, right? Of course, the quality front. If we are able to have an efficient test framework so that all the APIs can have unit test plan, functional test plan, and also there will be an open test that everyone can see and review, so that there's we can achieve a high and uniform bar for across all the vendor implementations. And as I mentioned, the test framework should be extensible as well, meaning when we have new and updated APIs objects, the framework should be fairly easy to adapt, such that people can use it to test any libSAI implementation. And then the efforts to add the tests going forward will be much simplified. With that, I think Ravi can continue to talk more. Yeah.
Thank you, Rita. Hi, I'm Ravi. I'm a technical lead at Intel. I work on the network applications. So as Rita said, right, the state of SAI testing today is non-uniform at best. So if you head over to the SAI GitHub repo, you would see these three directories. One is called basic router, which is a very simple L3 test case. And there's a SAI UT directory, which is a smattering of C++ tests. And finally, there is SAI thrift directory, which has some SAI objects and a few functional test cases for those objects. As of today, they number around 125 tests. And so before we go into more details here, right? I just want to expand on what Rita just said. We want to add a common set of test cases which normalizes any libSAI implementation from a quality perspective. So I will talk about this test, but the goal is basically to say that you take this number of tests, run it for your libSAI implementation, and the number of tests you pass should give a very good basis as to the quality of that implementation. So to address that, we basically came up with two aspects to this. One is how to make the test, how to make it easy to write more tests and actually add those tests, right? And our contribution is, I'm sorry. It's a pop-up. Right, so the existing, and once again, we chose PTF because PTF is a well understood packet testing framework. It's in Python, uses Python unit test, and it's very easy to understand and write tests also. And on the flip side, it's easy to integrate with other testing frameworks. Someone like PyTest or any other testing framework can easily invoke PTF APIs to test their implementations. So today, how it works is you have the SAI VLAN, which, as the name suggests, is used to test a VLAN API, right? And then you have a wrapper function, which will eventually call the Thrift server API. And on a remote switch, you have the RPC server implementation, which implements a Thrift backend. And there is when you really get into your own implementation, your own libSAI implementation. SAI create VLAN, SAI update VLAN, SAI create route. All of these are vendor implementations of those APIs. So as of today, to add a test, you need to update 4 different files. You add an entry in switchsai.thrift. And by the way, all of these files are current code in SAI. So if you want to add new test cases, you go update switchsai.thrift, run the Thrift compiler, generate the backend code, and then fill in that backend code in switchsai RPC server.cpp. And then, if applicable, write a Python wrapper. And only now you are ready to write an actual test. So what we are proposing is, get rid of all of this extra work, grunt work, and basically auto-generate everything except for the test itself. So what we are saying is, as and when you add a new SAI attribute or a new object, you just run one script, which will generate a SAI.thrift file, generate the complete RPC server implementation, and also a SAI adapter if you want to use it. And all you are left to do is write the test. And like I said, writing a test is the easy part once you come up with test cases. But my point is this removes the barrier that currently exists to write a new test. So if you are proposing a new attribute, all you have to do is write that new test to test that attribute. You don't have to worry about updating all of these other files to write the test. So how does this generation work? So it basically utilizes the SAI meta information that's already available today. It reads the SAI meta information via the existing infrastructure, and then makes use of a lot of new templates, a C++ template, a Thrift template, and a Python template. And the way this is structured is, if you wish, you could probably write a gRPC template and come up with a gRPC wrapper on top of Thrift. So nothing's limiting you from doing it. But yeah, that's and you basically have an RPC mechanism. You can invoke or update SAI from a remote switch, or from a remote server or a local server to invoke the SAI APIs. And once you have this, like I said, writing a test is the simple part. So the test cases themselves. Like I said, PTF is a Python-based framework. It's an open source framework under P4Lang ONF umbrella. Today, SONiC community tests extensively use PTF for packet testing. What we are planning to do over the next few weeks is basically upstream over 1,000 test cases in various SAI features and functional areas. By the way, we already have this auto generation framework as an open PR. We presented in the community call a couple of weeks back. but you can head over to the SAI repo and look at this auto generation framework. It's already out there. In fact, you can give it a try if you wish to. And then basically the next goal is to get these 1,000 test cases upstream for anyone to be able to run and use. So what do these test cases cover? They include two parts: the CRUD API themselves, set, get, update, create, delete. CRUD unit test cases for each attribute of an object and the object itself, and functional tests. So when I say functional tests, things like flooding, learning, aging, if it's L2, or ECMP, WCMP, tunneling, all of these feature and functional areas. And all of these functional test cases conform to SAI behavioral model. That's crucial because, like I said, if you want a uniform bar for everyone's SAI implementation, obviously the test needs to conform, to some well understood model. What this allows is, to have different implementations to behave in a predefined manner, which is I think what SAI exists for today. It decreases ambiguity for a given API. I mean, I can go into examples of certain APIs, but we can discuss that. And basically, this gives a common bar for everyone to have a quality SAI implementation. And like I said, invariably, if we discuss SAI, we always discuss about SONiC. And if you look at SONiC today, SONiC is a generic piece of code, right? The only thing that varies is the libSAI implementation at the very bottom, which comes from each ASIC vendor. So you can run all of these test cases in a SONiC community testbed environment also. You build SONiC with enable RPC, and we have work in progress where you should be able to run all of these test cases inside a SONiC environment using the well-known T0, T1 SONiC topologies. Like I said, SAI usually leads to SONiC, but I would like to stress that these tests are means to verify the libSAI.so, the core piece of software that's given by each vendor to enable SONiC or the SAI. So I would like to invite all vendors and partners to review and contribute to these test cases. Like I said, in the coming weeks or coming days, we will start open sourcing or rather publishing these test cases to SAI. Please take a look at them. Help us review the design of this thrift generator wrapper. Help us review the test cases, and please start adding your own PDF test cases. We would like to see these going from 1,000 to say 2,000, or there's no limit to it. And I think we have plenty of time, but that's all I have. So thank you. Thanks, everyone. Questions, if any?
So I have a few questions, actually.
Go ahead.
All right, I'll go first. So if you look at the SAI APIs today, right, or the SAI attributes, there are literally thousands of attributes.
995.
Yeah. I'm not going to go count. I'll take your word for it. The thing is, only a fraction of that actually gets used. If you look at SONiC, for example, it barely uses a fraction of that. So what we really need as a SAI implementer is, we don't want to go implement all the 995 attributes, right? So we want to really implement and test the fraction that is getting used. So what really would be very helpful is if SONiC, for example, SONiC or even Facebook, FBOSS, they come along and they run their tests, all the test suits collect the attributes that are being used, and that attribute gets published, meaning in some kind of a format, and then have the vendor consume those attributes and have that validated against the libSAI, right? So that way they could qualify saying, okay, FBOSS version XXX with these SAI attributes has been validated against this libSAI implementation, right? Same thing, SONiC 2021, validated against this thing, right? So I think that if you guys could achieve that, it will be very helpful for the SAI development.
Yep. So that's absolutely the goal. Like I said, right? LibSci is where all of the support for these attributes exist. And if today if you take two LibSci implementations from two different vendors, you have no idea if one attribute is supported. I mean, obviously you get that list from the vendor, but my point is, if you run one of these published test cases across these two implementations, they should pass. That's when you say that both of these ASICs support this attribute, or they work, right? So that's what we are trying to go for here.
The important point I'm trying to convey here is that as a LibSci implementer, I'm not interested in implementing all the attributes, right? I'm interested in implementing those attributes that are really getting used.
Yeah.
So that is the part that I'm trying to find out. I'm trying to say, like, if there's a way for all these test cases, the framework that's being put on in SAI has a way to say that these are the attributes that needs to be tested, and have the test case be generated for those attributes and have it validated, right? And there should be a way for the NOS, the SONiC or FBOSS or whatever operating systems out there, are able to collect that list and then provide it to the test framework so that it can be validated.
I think we could certainly consider that. On the SONiC side, as we know, the SONiC management test repo has something called marker, right? Certain test case will be run for all rows. Certain test case is needed for T0 only, right, top of rack. So similar concept could potentially be applied to SAI tests. I think this is the first step, that we want to have an automated test framework so that it's, and we're really looking forward for thousands of test cases. Once we have that, then I think we're open to community opinion. Basically, how do we prioritize which test attributes on objects? SAI objects and attributes are definitely needed for T0 and T1 scenarios, things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for putting this. This is, like you said, it's 3-year-old code, and a lot of things were already broken, and because I don't think it was updated after SAI 1.0. So, thanks.
Hi, this is really great work. I'm wondering if you've evaluated it for using the SONiC-Dash project, and if there's any enhancements or considerations you need to add.
So SONiC-Dash is pretty new, but we'll definitely, I mean, we can consider, including whatever SONiC-Dash, I mean, as far as I know, SONiC-Dash is more attributes and objects added to SAI. I'm sorry, I'm a little out of touch with that, but
I think it would be great if someone from your team could attend the test working group meetings for SONiC-Dash. Actually, there's one this Friday morning.
Sure.
There's a Google group for that.
Okay. Yeah, we'll consider that. Thank you. Okay. If there's nothing else, I think we can conclude now. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.